Welcome to the castle, everybody. This is Nightsaber Z42, and this is Character Vault, where I go through the entire process of creating a character from start to finish using different systems. And today, we're going to be taking a look at Twilight Imperium Embers of the Imperium. So this is a Genesis campaign setting based off of Twilight Imperium, the board game. While there is a lot that goes into the process of creating a character, it's not really super duper hard, unlike the board game. So let's dive right on in. So what do you actually need in order to create a character for this Twilight Imperium role-playing game? Well, you're obviously going to need a pencil, and yes, a pencil is recommended this time because you will be erasing some of your stats and adding on to that over time. You're also going to need the character sheet, and you're going to need the Genesis core rulebook, which, let me be honest, I don't really like it as much. I don't really like that you need this book, but you don't really need this book if you kind of know what you're doing. And if you actually watch this video, you won't even need it anyways, because there's only a couple of things that you're going to actually get out of it. So, there's about 7 steps to creating a character for Embers of the Imperium. First, we'll determine our background, which is kind of like our character concept. Then we'll select a species, then we'll choose a career, we'll invest our experience points into upgrading some stats or characteristics or some skills, or even buying some talents if we want to go that route. Then we'll determine our derived attributes, we'll determine motivation, allegiance, and agenda, and then we get to choose our gear and appearance and personality. So step number 1, determining our background. So as I said before, this really serves as a character concept, something used to get you thinking about what sort of a career you eventually want to take and what potential skills your character may possess. For my character, I wanted to do something along the lines of him being disgraced from command and ultimately forced to join the Keleris. The Keleris is an elite paramilitary organization under the Galactic Council's command. Think Spectre from Mass Effect, or even the Pathfinder Starfinder Society from the Paizo games. Next, we get to choose a species, and Embers of the Imperium has a whopping 15 species to choose from. The Krayas are like the ghosts of the galaxy that come from a wormhole anomaly. The Drua are like the Yuan Ti from D&D and have the ability to read minds. Talk about OP. The Gashlai are a raging inferno species. Their flames are hottest when they are young and eventually die out. The Haken are the lion people, probably most known with the Twilight Imperium setting. Humans. What else needs to be said? The Hylar are an aquatic species that are super intelligent and come from twin oceanic worlds. The Letnev are the obligatory blue species that all sci-fi games seem to have and are used just as an alternative human. The Nor come from a barren desert world and are this universe's bug species. By far the most unique of the species are the Naaz-Rokha, 2 species that are rarely seen apart. Basically, you have this cat person who carries around this little guy all day. The Sar are nomadic people and very good at mechanics, kind of like a certain Mass Effect species that I know. The Shikrai are a bird people that can't fly, but make good pilots, because of course they do. Titans are automata-looking biomechanical beings that actually grow up to be supermassive structures. The Winu are kind of like your standard we rule you species, except they are divided into 2 different cultures, one who preserve the throne and those who want nothing to do with it. The Ishta are peaceful turtle-like people that are certainly durable. And last and sorta kinda least are the Isaril, who are this universe's obligatory, not super advanced like the rest of us species. Their claim to fame is that they overthrew their invaders with their primitive tech. I'll be choosing the Naaz-Rokha because I like complicated things. Actually, playing the Naaz-Rokha isn't really much more complicated as any of the other species. We will be controlling 2 characters though. Next, we get to choose a career. There are 9 different careers to choose from. The captain is pretty straightforward. You captain your own ship. The covert infiltrator is your typical spy. The field scholar is what you play if you want to be a know-it-all. The Keleris investigators are the ones who are good at noticing things. The Keleris liaison acts as the party's diplomat. The orbital drop soldier is your standard-sized soldier. The Shepherds are obsessive fans of the Keleris and everything it stands for. They are kind of like a more capable investigator without the investigating skills. The Trail Stalkers are your typical ranger/scouts that excel at long-range combat, and the Wayfarers are just another type of captain. I'll be choosing the Caleris Investigator as our career with the thought that all of the physical skills would go to the Rokha and all of the thinking skills would go to the Naaz. So what do we get with the Caleris Investigator? A Caleris Investigator counts the following skills as career skills: computers, driving, knowledge culture, leadership, perception, ranged light, streetwise, and vigilance. And before spending experience during character creation, a Caleris Investigator may choose 4 of their career skills and gain 1 rank in each of them. We also get some gear. If you have a Caleris Investigator character, you may choose to start with the following gear instead of spending Are, which is this universe's money, during character creation. We can take a beam pistol, echo garment, savant, and combead, 2 pairs of autocuffs or ambassador or quintessensor, 2 Z-tabs, and 1 D100 RI. I'm actually going to go ahead and take the starting gear just to keep things simplified and going. As to the skills that I'm going to increase, I'll be increasing ranged light, knowledge culture, computers, and driving. So basically 2 skills for my Rokha and 2 skills for my Naaz. By the way, their names are Gek and Gak, so have fun determining which is which. Next, we can actually invest our experience points. We'll actually use the Genesis book to get the rulings for spending experience points, or you could just save this video for later and watch it over and over and get my view count up. Every species has starting XP, which they can allocate to improving characteristics, skills, and talents. For example, the Naaz-Rokha. The Naaz-Rokha have a starting experience of 70. The average is usually around 100. That's if you really don't get any benefits for that species. So we get a much lower count to begin with. But then again, we get to play with 2 characters, so it kind of balances out. A good rule of thumb for character creation is to focus on improving characteristics because this is the only time you'll be able to improve them with XP. So we actually have 6 different characteristics. We have brawn, agility, intellect, cunning, willpower, and presence. And you can see that we actually get 2 because we're playing as 2 characters. In order to buy a characteristic, we need to spend 10 times the number that we're going to. So if we want to increase a characteristic from 2 to 3, then we would spend 30 experience. Also, for character creation, characteristics cannot go above 5. You can improve characteristics by purchasing certain talents, but you'll have to invest a lot of XP to do so. Think of this as being much later in the game. Now, skills can be divided into 2 different categories: career skills and non-career skills. In order to buy a career skill, we need to spend 5 times the number we're going to. And if it's a non-career skill, we spend 5 times the number we're going to plus an additional 5 XP. We are going to exclusively pump into characteristics. I'll be increasing Gek's intellect to 4 by spending 40 XP and Gak's agility up to 3, spending 30 XP. Since we have starting XP of 70, that leaves us with 0. Next, we get to determine our derived attributes. Wound threshold, strain threshold, defense, and soak values all make up your character's derived attributes. Our wound threshold is how much damage you can take before becoming incapacitated and succumbing to some sort of a critical injury. Strain threshold is how much mental damage you can take before becoming dazed, stunned, or incapacitated. Each species lists how these are calculated. For wound threshold, add your brawn to the number. So for our Naaz character, we would have 4 plus our brawn, which is 5. For our Rokha, it is 10 plus our brawn, so in this instance, 12. For our starting strain threshold, for Gek, we would take 10 plus his willpower, which would be 12. And then for Gak, we would take 6 plus our willpower, which is 7. Soak is how much damage we can tank before it affects our wound count. Our soak is pretty much our brawn rating until we can get better equipment. Gek's soak is going to be 1, while Gak's is actually going to be 3, even though his brawn is 2. That's because we're going to give him some armor. In our investigator package for our gear, we ended up with an Echo Garment, which actually gives us a +1 to our soak. We can increase our soak further by getting better equipment and gear. Our defense starts at 0, although there are some armors and equipment that can raise this. What motivates Gek Gak? I want to go traditional for this one. Vengeance, which is part of our desire. So for our character motivation, we actually get 4 different themes to play around with. Desire, fears, strengths, and flaws. Which is a pretty interesting way to kind of make up a backstory for your character. And I kind of like it. You can either come up with your own or roll on the table. I chose to go ahead and choose my own because I know what I want. So for our desire, we're going to go heavy on the vengeance. Gek's life partner was murdered, and we don't know why. He wants answers, and he's going to stick a big panther person on whoever did it. This drive for vengeance could have also been a big factor to Gek Gak's disgrace and eventual coming to the Keleris. For fears, we're going to give Gek humiliation. He's afraid of being humiliated because, well, he's a big know-it-all, and humiliation for us smart people is really one of those things that we fear the most. For his strength, we're going to say that he is very analytical. And I know that I'm going over Gek's stuff. That's because Gek is pretty much the follower. He'll do whatever Gek says. So Gek is very analytical because he's smart. And his flaw is he kind of succumbs to anger, especially since the loss of his life partner. Vengeance is what he thrives for. He wants to find whoever did it, and he has no more patience for those who just get in his way. So he is very quick to anger. So that goes without saying, our agenda is definitely going to be revenge. And there are a few different types of agendas that we can take from here. So that's things from ascension, revenge, knowledge, absolution, liberty, devotion, and resourcefulness. And they also have some example benchmarks. So we're definitely going to take our revenge as our agenda. And I really do like that this game allows you to choose whether or not you're going to have a public agenda or a secret agenda, because we also have an allegiance, and there are a ton of different factions in Twilight Imperium. We are going to go with the standard Naaz-Rokha allegiance. I kind of was thinking on the fence about, but these are really tied to the different species, and it didn't really seem Gek Gak would ally themselves with another species faction. You could possibly do it that way. So we're going with the Naaz-Rokha alliance. So even though his own people forced them to join the Keleris, I still think Gek Gak would have some allegiance to the Naaz-Rokha alliance, mainly to utilize what resources are at their disposal. So something that I didn't really go over at the beginning is what the character sheet actually looks like. Now, I'm using the special Naaz-Rokha character sheet because, well, we're playing as 2 characters. And this character sheet actually has 2 different spots for our characteristics, but not for our skills, because we actually share skills. Although, whenever there's an instance where, for example, I want to use computers, it's probably going to be Gek who's going to do that. Although Gek could also use that, although they would still roll different dice. So here we have our character sheet. We are Gek Gak of the Keleris Investigator career. We are allied with the Naaz-Rokha Alliance. Gek's soak is 1, his wound threshold is 5, but his strain is all the way up to 12. He has no defense. His brawn is 1, his agility is 1, his intellect is 4, his cunning is 2, his willpower is 2, and his presence is also 2. Gek's soak value is 3. He has a wound threshold of 12, and his strain is 7. He also has a defense of 0. His brawn is 2, his agility is 3, his intellect is 2, his cunning is 3, his willpower is 1, and his presence is also 1. For skills, we just have our standard career skills. Our career skills are computer, driving, perception, streetwise, vigilance, ranged light, leadership, and knowledge culture. We put our 4 starting career points into computers, driving, ranged light, and knowledge culture. Don't worry, we will be able to increase our skills as we play. I just wanted to focus on upgrading those characteristics since we really won't get another chance at it until much later. We do possess a beam pistol, although let's be honest, Gek is probably going to be the one doing all the shooting, but it is a ranged light skill. It does a damage of 4. It can crit with 3. That means you need 3 advantages to actually make use of a crit. It has a range of medium, and its special property is Pierce 2. That means it gets rid of 2 soak before you do damage. And here we have our equipment log. Gek's is on the left, Gek's is on the right. So basically, Gek is going to be kind of like a meat shield in a way. For our agenda, we have revenge. Our motivations are analytical for strength, anger for flaw, vengeance for desire, and humiliation for fear. And that is actually it for character creation. Now, of course, we'll go into the specifics of like what their age are and some other things like their appearance. But we've got pretty much everything out of the way. So thank you so much for watching. Feel free to leave a comment down below. Give this video a huge thumbs up to support this series, and I will see you guys in the next video.